Hello, guys, and I'm slowly realizing I have never seen a Vin Diesel movie. Huh. That's interesting. Never really thought about it, but yeah, I've never seen, like, the Need for Speed movies or any of... Ah!
I am going to commit great crime.
Chrono appears.
Yeah, I brought food.
What kind of food? Have you got enough to share with the class?
No.
You'll get detention. And Rain gets double attention.
Oh, gentlemen.
You get detention because Chrono didn't bring enough food for the class.
Why? What did he get detention for?
I didn't bring enough.
Wait, weren't you supposed to be streaming?
I am streaming.
I didn't see anything on your screen.
That's weird.
No, you didn't tell him. Oh my god.
There we go.
I just got here.
The fuck you then?
The animation of that animation. Can I ask a question? Chrono, have you ever seen a movie with Vin Diesel in it?
Talking about Fast and Furious?
Pretty please, I don't want to be a magical girl pilot. Oh, we'll watch that eventually, I think. How long is it?
Want to be a magical girl? Why
Okay.
not? It's good.
I mean, I've always said this. Magical girls are basically just tokusatsu, but for girls. Sometimes they're even more destructive than tokusatsu. Like 11 minutes? We'll watch it after this then. But yeah, apparently the Chronicles of Riddick have a bunch of games. So, yeah. I don't think Rain knows who Vin Diesel is.
I just know he's like the guy from Fast and Furious.
Yeah, he's from the Fast and the Furious movies. He actually has his own game studio.
Really?
Yeah, he also plays D&D.
What the fuck?
He's a big nerd.
I did not get that impression from him, honestly.
Yeah, he don't look like it. But yeah, he plays D&D. He has his own, like, dark elf... dark elf thief, if I remember correctly.
You see anything?
Darkness. You afraid? I'm not. The dark is afraid of me.
Of course he says something like that.
Over the years, I've mentioned the Riddick games a handful of times. I thought of them the most playing through Callisto Protocol since there was so much lost potential there for a space prison game. But playing The Thing Remastered had me thinking about it again. It's one of the truly great and unique movie licensed games.
Really?
Only issue is, if you don't have it on console, holy shit is this thing a bear to get running. And there are layers to this, because there are 3 different versions of Butcher's Bay.
Oh
and
no.
each one has its own special quirks. So let's go through all that first. Original Xbox version. You need the console. It
I
is
did
also
play
a
this
game
on the
really pushing
PS3, I
graphical
think.
fidelity, so
Well,
it
I
might
played
not
the
run
demo.
best. It also won't look as good as it could, but it is plug and play if you have all the materials.
Plug
Which
and
brings
play.
us to the PC version called the Developer's Cut, and my hell. Even if you bought this back in the day, it came with Sekirom. This is sort of like a Balrog for DRM nowadays, except in this case the Balrog was locked away for shitting its pants in class too much.
Oh.
GOG did re-release it without it.
Oh
But
god,
licenses
Sekiro.
expired, and the
Oh,
time-
so you know what this is, Link Bro, because I have no idea. A feed ward. Well, this sounds like it's going to go terribly. Also known as Sekirom. Oh! It was that bad, huh? Damn.
Maybe you bought it
What?
before that, or have your own copy, or found a version floating around. That's nice, but now comes the checklist of broken things. Like if you try to play above
Mandalore.
1080, the game will
Yeah.
start zooming into the corner. The higher the resolution, the bigger the zoom.
Oh,
I did
no.
look into ways you could do monitor upscaling and all these tricks to technically make it go up, but this is a problem at an engine level.
Oh,
Plus, I didn't
no.
want my footage looking weird, but this is all at 1080. Still looks good. Okay, now does your movement look jittery and weird? Like Vin Diesel's being bitten by rats nonstop. So ironically, it's due to your mouse, and you need to set the refresh rate lower. I
Oh,
repeat,
God.
Your mouse can fuck this game up if it's above 125.
Oh
Fear
my
is another
God.
game with this kind of thing.
It's a bad They literally faced a
Movement
class
now looks
action
normal.
lawsuit for
Check
using
that
it
off.
in Spore.
Actually,
Oh,
it
wow.
might be done. The aliasing can be rough, but you can enable it in the console, which you do by adding this line to the environment configuration folder.
Oh dear God.
Alt-tilde, add this line, hit enter, and you're good to go. As long as it doesn't crash when you do that. Also, you have to open the console, hit the up arrow, and hit enter every time you restart the game. You can also add an EAX sound if you have the tools for that, but when you get to this
Good
part,
Lord.
you might see things start to flicker. We're not done yet. This issue has been blamed on new RTX GPUs, AMD GPUs, but I've found forum posts from 2005 complaining about it, so it's always been around in some form. The problem is having your
game
shaders
to
set
work.
max
Yeah,
at
you have to
2.0++,
add you have to
the
add a
shape-
line of code in order for the game to work like you want. It's basically like the best way to describe old games like this. It's like each individual, like there are buildings being made, but you don't know how the building was made. Only the original builder does, and not even the people that have the specs kind of do. So you have to do a lot of guesswork on, well, they would probably do it like this, but they might have done it like this.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah.
For
That's
the
how
future.
security
The main
breach was
difference is
made.
that instead of hardline stencil shadows, you get soft
Ratchet and
shadows.
Clank
It's not a
is
huge
made
visual difference,
on a
but
house
the
of
game
cards.
does run noticeably worse with it on. There is a patch in the PC Gaming Wiki, which I've been using for this. It's worth installing if you have crashing problems, but on my end, it didn't fix the
wanna know
night
fun
vision
facts
flickering.
about
So
me?
you can put all of
What?
this under an umbrella of
I've never played Ratchet and Clank.
Oh, we're going to have to fix that on some point. You probably... If my friend Matt's having as much trouble as he does in the first game, I'm going to have to lead you by the hand for the first game.
Well, see, the thing is I've always wanted to play them. It's just the fact that by the time I actually got my first PlayStation console, it was already like in the middle of the thing, and the first game wasn't even available for me to play. So I was just like, well, I guess I missed out on that series.
Don't worry, we still got a bunch. Well, we have one on the PS4. Well, technically two, but we don't talk about the reboot.
But it's the same thing with Final Fantasy.
I just looked at Rain's Twitter. Want more people to adopt. Won't come out annoying. Anyone want to get adopted? Bam. People think they hiding in the likes. You sneaky cats. You sneaky tiny small animals that I keep in my
I'm reading
pocket.
that. I just see that out.
Hey, Daisy. Daisy says, hello, Chrono the Chihuahua.
Hello, Daisy. I'm not a Chihuahua.
Oh my god.
it depends. But if you do all that, you'll have a mostly stable, great-looking and sounding game. It's pretty nuts for
Yay.
an original Xbox port.
Yeah, that's pretty
We're
nuts.
moving again. They just transmitted a safe route through the minefield.
That minefield's offering better odds than you're gonna get taking me to Butcher Bay.
It's visually gritty, moody, and extremely atmospheric. Plus, it has new gameplay sections not on Xbox, and a Half-Life 2 style commentary mode. All great additions, but remember, there's a third option. The Butcher Bay Remaster, made for the Xbox 360 in 2009, and included in Dark Athena. The sequel game just has this bundled with it, and it's on PC as well. Porting the game to an upgraded engine sounds great, until you see what they've done to it.
Oh,
They just transmitted a safe route through the
bloom.
minefield.
Lots of
That
bloom.
minefield's offering better odds than you're gonna get taking me to Butcher Bay.
There are technical improvements,
Oh,
like lip syncing was a huge one, but
Comments acting, how's your character going, Chrono?
Huh? What?
What?
Basically, Common asks, how's your character going? I think he means for World of Darkness or Hunter the Reckoning. Sorry, I just had to put a quick line in there.
but the look and feel of the game is completely changed. It's
That's
just
not
drowning in color.
I am not cute. Blue tint everywhere. Yeah, pretty much.
And bloom and post-processing. Everything became washed out and overburdened at the
It's
same
doing
time.
the
For
very,
reference, the sequel takes
like,
place in a creepy spaceship,
Xbox
and now the
360 thing
prison
of making
looks
everything
like a creepy
tinted.
spaceship.
Anna,
And beyond the art shift, a lot of details were changed.
Why you
or lost,
lie?
and I could notice a bunch right from the opening.
why you lie?
Fuck back to your cell, Jack.
put
Yes,
blue
you
spray
did.
paint in her eyes. Oh, no.
You said you'll play role today.
This is your home.
Well, I mean, after this rain, we can... I mean, after this and, like, one more video, if you want rain, we can play Repo. If you really want to.
Can I can you watch something really cursed so I can drain in my memory?
Oh no. But yeah, Riddick. Be Riddick.
Get the fuck back to your cell, Jack.
Less NPCs on screen.
Barbara.
Less person
Come talk to
interaction.
me after delousing.
Oh, they removed a bunch of stuff.
This is your home.
Oh, I am
Trade-offs
not
aren't worth it
cute.
to me. Like, gunplay is better, but it's not a pure FPS all the way through. Mechanics like melee combat were overhauled to be more reliable, but have less depth to them. Some sticking points like climbing are a lot more reliable this time around, which is a big plus. But then enemy detection AI feels a lot worse in areas, and on PC, it still has its own different set of quirks to get running. Some
Oh,
old
boy.
bugs were fixed, some new ones showed up. Ultimately, though,
Wonderful.
they took grungy prison assets and replaced some with those meant for a spaceship, and it just doesn't look cohesive.
Ah.
That's a pain right now. I've put feelers out about that, but the second best option, I can't do it.
I said,
Letterboxing.
my cell.
Yeah, it is a ridiculous situation, but it is a game that deserves the spotlight. Really, the entire franchise is endlessly interesting to me.
Really? What the hell?
Luckily, Butcher Bay is a prequel, so you don't need to have seen any of the movies or the comics or anything else really, but I'll still lay down some groundwork. Riddick first appears in the movie Pitch Black, which is about a
I've
commercial
never seen this
spaceship
one.
crash landing on a planet, and Riddick is just one of the survivors.
Oh.
Richard
Oh.
B. Riddick. Escaped convict. Murderer.
Murder.
That's a particularly good Shiraz. It's a lovely drop. It's very expensive.
He had just broken out of a high-security prison, but was captured by Johns, a bounty hunter. Johns
Alright.
intends to take him right back to one, both for the money
Such a
and
good
because they
movie.
have a history.
Maybe I'll
In
watch
fact,
it
in the
one
start of
day.
Butcher Bay, it's Johns taking him there, and even at this point, they've
love
known
a
each other a while.
question.
This is because Riddick is basically a walking
How do you
shake.
do
In Vin
it,
Diesel
Disney?
terms,
Oh. Let me see.
both for the money and because
How
they
you
have a
feel,
history. In fact,
The
in the start
view?
of Butcher Bay, it's Johns taking him there, and even at this
You.
point, they've known each other
It-
a while. This
Oh.
is because
Oh,
Riddick is
debut.
basically a walking shank. In Vin Diesel terms,
Well,
he's a
sorry for
drow
my
gloom stalker
baby
ranger.
language.
It's fine. It's fine. I just barely could hear you there. I'm sorry. I got you
For a
turned all
while.
the way up.
This is because Riddick is basically a walking shank. In Vin
Oh.
Diesel
That's
terms,
all.
he's a drow gloom
Oh,
stalker
no, it was
ranger.
my-
He's a
He has
Glow
exceptional dark
Gloom
vision,
Stalker
but
Ranger.
he needs welding goggles to help tolerate it.
That's
Wait,
a-
wait, what did they
that's
say?
a you problem now.
I couldn't hear him.
This is because Riddick is basically
Rain
a
was
walking
asking
shank. In Vin
if,
Diesel terms,
How to do a debut?
A
I
debut?
really don't know.
I mean,
I don't
I
even
can.
know.
Started
I know
one day.
some knowledge about it.
All I did was I just started one day as a VTuber and that was it.
I just thought as a paying YouTuber, and I was like, I already revealed the model. Then what do I do after this?
Well, I'll talk to you more after this video, alright?
Fine.
he's a drow gloom stalker ranger.
Oh
He
my
has
God.
exceptional dark vision, but in normal light, he needs welding goggles to help tolerate it.
Oh!
Because he got his eyes modified in a sunless prison.
You take up a doctor.
Hello.
You pay him 20 menthol cools.
Oh, funny.
Do a surgical shine job.
So they can see better in the dark.
can see you sneaking up on you in the
It's
dark.
Bun Bun 2.0.
So by the time of the movie, he
Welcome,
seems to have
Daisy.
tossed out most of his humanity.
It's
He's physically
Bun Bun
modified
to
to dwell in the abyss, hunt
Oh
down
my God.
others, and say
Oh,
2000s
I don't care.
one-liners.
He's
He's
cute.
extremely perceptive. Pitch Black explores the group needing him to be their eyes, but it's
Oh.
also about what he saw in them before the lights went out, and what he couldn't see. It's a genuinely great and self-contained movie.
Really?
This creature feature very focused on its characters. In the sequel, an empire of death-worshipping space crusaders are about to wipe out all life in the universe.
What?
That is a hell of a jump to make.
Yeah?
The story wasn't as strong and definitely lacked focus, but it introduced a really interesting sci-fi setting, and Riddick gets to run around in it.
Oh.
Kill you with my teacup.
These movies come out, it looks like a modern cop in a ball
Scary.
cap, and then
Oh
a
my
city
God.
called New Mecca, or Wolverine is trying to kill Riddick, or Lenoge is back to haunt my nightmares with his 40k homebrew faction.
Oh.
Space Conan, and I love that.
So
Space
Downside
Conan.
is they did start to make him the
sci-fi
chosen one, and
fantasy-
More sci-fi. Well, sci-fi encompasses everything. As long as you can like explain stuff away and just say it's not magic, then honestly it's sci-fi.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Kind of like Warhammer.
Kinda, yeah.
there was some retconning that this game actually makes explanations for. The third movie did have some cool stuff as well, but also a lot of, let's do Pitch Black again. So when we get into the story, I'll talk about the movies more, or else I'd have a lot less to say on the plot. Because otherwise, it's a very straightforward game, and the parts I find the most interesting do need the movies for context. Also, the game came out a week before the Chronicles of Riddick movie, so beyond being a marketing tie-in game, it had threads to follow in there. Okay, so as for the plot, Johns drops off Riddick at Butcher Bay.
Alright.
It's really that simple, but I'll go over a little more.
Oh, tackles a guard.
The fall that gets you.
The opening cutscene is actually right before Chronicles of Riddick starts. He's in self-exile on a snow planet fighting a Section 8 Wampa. I won't go too much into Chronicles of Riddick here. But he's haunted by the voice of some kind of ancestor spirit, lamenting that he can use his gifts so well, but there's such a dark soul behind his eyes.
These are a courtesy of a slam preacher. Got him a long time ago. Cost me 20 menthols.
Yeah, he got eyes that let him see better in the dark, but he needs goggles to see
So he's
normally.
actively in denial of his chosen one status, which I do support him on that.
Yeah.
You cannot escape your destiny.
I can escape anything.
Like Butcher Bay.
Butcher Bay. John.
Okay, and that's that.
Food?
Johns finally has Riddick locked
that
away in
food?
the pacifier torment throne. But at some point in the
Food?
past, Johns crossed
Oh my
I do have food.
the
Oh,
warden
God.
of Butcher Bay, Hoxie.
Now that you
we
said
never learned
food, my
exactly what
Tommy
happened
said that
between Hoxie
wrongly.
and Johns,
Oh my
but
God.
since Hoxie looks like a cross
No,
between
fix that.
Shrek 2's Prince Charming and a
Oh.
South American dictator, it could have been
Ew.
pretty. Either way, the opening establishes some cool mechanics you're in for,
Oh,
like dialogue
alright.
options.
Today, Johns, you get fucked.
And stealth kills because Johns turns his back on Riddick. But
Oh.
he won't be grabbing his weapon.
DNA protection.
Ah,
Meat learns the hard way.
we can't pick up the gun.
You're introduced to the melee system, hiding bodies, climbing, and a few helpful concepts like using health stations, and not all guns are DNA protected. All the way through, Vin Diesel
Makes
guides
sense.
you along your way.
Locked. Not a problem. I'll blast it off.
This is the
All
most
right.
he narrates the whole game, but it's interesting because it wasn't always this way.
Hey,
Oh.
when
He
in
still
doubt,
has thoughts during
blast
key
it.
moments, and the tutorial being the most narrative heavy makes sense. But if you look into any Riddick project, you'll find out that Vin Diesel had a ton of input into the character.
Really?
Arguably the best shot in Pitch Black was Vin Diesel's idea.
Oh.
Crikey. I thought it was him. I thought it was Riddick.
He's just sitting out there.
For Butcher Bay, he wanted less lines than what
Sitting
they had
out there
written for it.
drinking.
So when he does
Like,
speak to himself,
"Hello."
it seems way more deliberate and reflective. Like he's been snapped out of survival mode to think about something deeper. And
Oh.
at other times, it's more tutorial-style help.
Ah,
Locked. Need to con the hacks into opening it.
Sure, the man could read a phone book and it would probably be entertaining. But
Yeah.
what's important is that the restriction made it so it's never grating. A silly one-liner is a treat you get every once in a while, instead of something you endure every 30 seconds.
makes
I
sense.
played the hand that was dealt. And then I cheat.
Beyond introducing all the game's concepts, it's good characterization.
I mean,
By the end,
yeah.
you kind of get what he's like as far as edgelords go. There's plenty of room left to add more to him, and then they taper his lines off appropriately.
A med station. Takes away the hurt, leaves the pain.
Which makes it find that the opening is all a dream. Or
Takes away
Oh.
at
the
least
hurt,
the
leaves
escape
the
attempt
pain.
part. You've learned
Yeah,
how to
he
play the
says a
game,
lot of
Riddick has clear
lines like that
motivation,
from
and
what
the
I
story's
can tell.
pacing is still intact. Like I said before, Riddick goes to prison.
So the famous Mr. Riddick.
Oh
Escape
no,
Butcher
he's
Bay.
got
Got what Hawks
accent.
and Exhibit?
Remember the rules. My rules.
All we need now is Ja Rule, and Riddick is for sure getting 25 to life. Anyways, let's talk about the look of the game. Butcher Bay, the actual prison, is a concrete nightmare.
Oh.
A triple max security facility. The planet is a desert wasteland, and the prison itself is built over an endless abyss. Inmates in the lower levels can participate in the prison's mining operations, which at least gives you something to do until you built over an endless abyss.
Okay.
Inmates in the lower levels can participate in the prison's mining operations,
Ah.
which at least gives you something to do until you crack into a hole the local wildlife is living in.
Oh,
Honestly,
no.
Most of the time, it's hard to tell you're living in scared straight Arrakis at all. The guards might get a frequent peek at the scenic hellscape, but you're mainly here to rot in a cell. No one escapes Butcher Bay, and the guards especially know this.
Ah.
Most of General Pop is a rotting, graffiti-covered zoo. An entire wing of it has basically been surrendered to a gang, but in reality,
Oh.
it's not going to go too far outside of how Exhibit wants things run. It's another method of control the guards can use without having to
They
bother
control
doing
the
it
gangs
themselves.
with inside.
If they see violations, they might come down to beat someone down for fun, including you. But otherwise, max security is a place of pure apathy. What makes it
Ah.
interesting is that there are sci-fi elements, but this is a prison first and foremost.
Makes
You're not
sense.
held in by force fields, just concrete and metal. Visually, everything looks like it was built to last. All the machinery and computers are huge and bulky. Even something more fantastical like the power armor still looks clumsy and dated. Like they're not top-of-the-line machines, but for riot control, they'll get the job done.
They're
And
good
they'll probably
enough.
run forever if you have the parts to repair them. Everything you see was meant to be thrown here and endure the rot. Sure, it's a future space prison colony, but visually, it looks so grounded. However, the deeper you go into the prison, the more things will start to change up. It goes from a
the little
rundown
eye
San
peek
Quentin
out of the
to what
armor.
could be a circle
Yeah.
of hell. The mining operation, which Butcher Bay actually has an interest in running smoothly, still has a surface look of being a free-for-all, but if you look, there are cameras everywhere. It still looks like General Pop to the newcomers, but it is not the same structure. And along the way, you're starting to see more of the sci-fi technology this setting has. You're not sure how far it'll go until you hit triple max security near the end of the game.
Triple
which I won't
max.
show yet, but it's a hell of a shake-up compared to everything else. It's such a great mix of high tech and low life. Even at the end, it doesn't twist things too far off. You might see a laser, but the elaborate metal doors break down sometimes. There are nanotech healing stations, but a guard might have a toll for one. There can be enough cameras to make George Orwell uncomfortable, the guards still know a blind spot. There are so many extra details to make it feel lived in. There's such a pristine layer of stains and grime to everything. Like, within about 5 minutes of arrival, it's clear Riddick won't be content raiding the commissary and making Ziploc McFlurries. And this is before he's seen Double Max.
Oh!
What brings it all together is the game's lighting system. Beyond just, looking sharp, seeing as Riddick's superpower is being able to see in the dark, light and shadow being a huge focus makes complete sense.
Yeah.
He may have cool one-liners, but he's not immune to bullets. It's not much of a gunfight if you don't have one too, and trying to run in straight forward will get you killed.
Makes
so
sense.
Instead you stick to the shadows, don't get caught, and find a way around. There is some thief DNA here, and while sound isn't nearly as important, it's still present to a degree. For example, a stealth kill isn't a one-button option, you have two. A longer kill that stays quieter, or the express option.
Nothing
Express option.
The game does have refining mechanics to where sound surfaces could have worked, but it's not a pure stealth game, and a lot of times, stealth is just an option. Still, I love how the game looks. The engine may be finicky, but it still feels like id Tech 3's cool cousin. The levels of darkness the game can get to can be extreme, but what's neat is how controllable it can be, and the fact that eyeshine isn't a perfect solution. Even before you have eyeshine, you can still take out lights to have an advantage. If anyone does come into the light, you already have the drop on them. You might think being able to see in the dark would only make this better, but remember, Riddick is also light sensitive. You can still prep an area to be stealthier, but when the shooting starts, you're disoriented by the muzzle flares and flashlights. You're at your best killing quietly in the dark. The fact your weapon spread isn't great kind of works for the character too. He can use guns, but
it works
not
best in
about
complete
guns.
darkness.
A firefight happening in the dark is things not going his way, so it looks disorienting. When it shifts back to melee combat, now you're in his
damn,
world.
you could barely
And
see
Vin
right
Diesel
there.
never needs to say, oof, ow, my eyes. This is all informed through gameplay. It would have been easy to forgo the movies and make him a perfect predator in darkness, but instead, it's still a trade-off he has weaknesses in. Besides, you could just use a flashlight, but that puts you on an even playing field.
Yeah. Does
Also,
the roll.
I love the menu cube. I don't know why it's a cube, but I do miss when games would have absolutely wild menus like this.
Yeah.
Maybe it's to reinforce being trapped in a box or a homage to another cool movie. Whatever the reason, it can be clunky, but it sure is memorable. Also, don't watch the Japanese version of Cube. Oh my god.
Alright then. I know nothing about the Japanese version of Cube. So that's a thing. Well then. Wasn't expecting that today, but anyway.
The game has great character models and animation, though the lip syncing can be wonky sometimes, but it's still crazy to think that this came out on the original Xbox. It has some fantastic graphical technology on display, but as for the audio, it's also great. There are lots of layered ambient effects, the weapons and sci-fi gizmos sound unique, and the actual sound propagation technology is good too.
Ooh. The Japanese remake of Cube is really bad.
Get you out of there after you apologize.
Taking out the lights.
The music is good too, but I wish there were more combat tracks. There's a good amount of the sneaking and tension songs, and they have little flourishes of the action tracks in them.
Oh.
I think it's that most of the combat music sounds like
It's bad
adventure
character
music.
writing I've seen in a while. Oh, damn, really that bad? Oh.
Prisoner, give up.
Come
It's not
on,
bad at all, but
prisoner.
there are absolutely some sections where it doesn't feel fitting. And like many movie licensed games, not being able to use any movie music is a real shame. Not having any stinger with the horns is such a lost opportunity.
Yeah.
I bet.
Oh,
Does the job.
Care Bear.
Voice
There was
acting
some
is
Care
good,
Bear
you know?
right there.
Everyone from the movie reprises their roles. There's excellent direction.
Oh.
The game is loaded with pro voice actors and Hollywood actors, which was still highly unusual for back then.
Yeah, it's
I'm
weird
not
to
even
put
gonna
them
ask
in
you how you
games.
handle those hacks.
The one sticking point is that sometimes Vin Diesel gets right up on the microphone.
How do I know you're
Oh
not
my
a
God.
simple
Yeah.
imposter? Can you stitch me or not?
You're Riddick, huh?
Yeah, he's right up there.
Ow.
I'm not a very good listener. Where's
Like
this
you can
supposed
tell
to
the
be?
audio
Never
difference.
good listener. Mic technique while working on the
Oh my god.
Damn.
Oh yeah, Vin Diesel was the Iron Giant. I
Wait,
completely
really?
forgot about that.
No.
Yeah. Yes.
I didn't know that.
It's one of my
I've never
favorite
seen that.
movies. I forgot he was in that. He played the Iron Giant.
I remember that movie only a little bit, but I remember
I see
the
some of the
movie.
trailers, but nothing like that.
I just didn't know it was his voice in that.
Yeah, I
didn't know
love
it was
the
actually
Iron
his voice
Giant.
No one can actually like recognize his voice.
Who stay, I go. No
It sounds
following.
familiar.
I am not a gun.
But then again, that came out when, like, the late
Right.
90s,
Kino?
early 2000s.
Is Kino? What? I don't know what you mean by that, Lynx. Yeah. Mr. Goop from Willy Wonka is eating the microphone. It was just like best of the best. Ah.
The Iron
I
Giant.
love... Yeah, The Iron Giant is a great movie. As a kid, I
When did
watched
that
it all the
come out
time.
again? I forgot.
I don't know, it
Wow.
was around when I was little. Like little.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be until later
Yeah.
that you
Same.
learned some
I
things.
think it was, like, late.
In your mouth
90s?
is art!
Fuck.
Oh, that's art.
1990s,
When it
yeah,
comes
I
to
was
living and
tiny.
escaping prison, there are a few interesting systems
Yeah,
at play.
I was a
With the
babe,
first
like...
you'll likely run into being melee combat.
Yeah, I
It
think I
can look
was
janky,
too.
because it is, but it's an interesting control scheme. Basically,
Oh.
the direction of your movement will affect the direction of your swings. Kind of
Interesting.
like later Elder Scrolls games, I guess. The difference is every swing counts, not just power attacks, and you can also land combos. You do this by tapping a
Get the
direction at
combo.
the same time you hit an attack. Of course, getting the combo in means dodging or blocking until that window opens up, and that can be a small window. Plus, you're also keeping your eyes open for performing a counter, which you can do right before an enemy hits you. The timing for these is extremely precise, and you only know you can do it when Riddick
Really?
opens his hands. This typically happens outside your line of sight, so from your perspective, Riddick's hands just vanish. Weirdly
Oh.
enough, this is way easier to do on enemies with a weapon, and especially a gun, because their swings are so much more telegraphed. So if
Makes
you're not
sense.
zoned out by gunfire, then getting in close is your best bet. You can find all kinds of melee weapons too, like knuckle dusters, clubs, all kinds of shivs. But really, they all feel
That makes
equally
sense in
brutal.
prison.
Melee combat is fast and meaty. Sometimes your counters are so fast that you're not even sure you did one until Paul Blart drops dead. The problems come from enemies creeping into you, or the AI acting weird, or things not lining up correctly. And the system itself can just be tricky. Being able to see Riddick's whole body and legs when you look down doesn't feel like it was put there just for immersion, but also because there's a kind of full body awareness to the combat.
Ah.
It does feel close to something like Condemned Criminal Origins, but that came out over a year later and was done better.
I
was never
don't know
completely
anything about
comfortable with it,
Condemned.
which does make the fights tense, but when you deal with a damage sponge in something like the Exhibit boss
Oh.
fight, then it gets tedious. But when you get in the flow and it all comes together,
Them is
the
also
sheer
Kino.
brutality
I never
becomes
got to
pure
play it. I
spectacle.
thought it was a horror game, so. God damn.
Damn!
Just wailing away.
How the
the
blood
shit
plays
out of
around
him.
Definitely makes it more visceral.
Very scary one as
Though
well.
strangely,
Yeah, I never
like
will play it as a
Condemned,
kid then.
You also get an
Oh.
overpowered taser, but even stronger because it's an electric dart gun. Though
Oh.
at the very least, you don't get it until a good ways
Oh
into the
my
game.
God.
Plus, while there are weapons-free areas, a lot are being monitored. And if you're seen holding any extracurricular items, they'll put you down.
Oh my
The
That's
game really
great, though.
plays with how much freedom you're allowed in any section,
That was
so
a
weapons will come
scream.
and go, and you're never 100% sure how
The
much power
heck
you've gained
out
will stay.
it was.
Still, at a baseline,
No.
melee is fun and unique, just tricky to
Power
master.
laser.
Dark
This
Athena's
really is
take is
condemned.
much easier, but for the Butcher Bay levels, it doesn't carry the same sense of tension. It feels like you auto-counter kill them when you whittle their health down, and while it looks a lot smoother, it doesn't have the same physical weight to
Ooh.
it. It makes way more sense in its
Oh,
own
man.
campaign, just not the prison.
Oh my.
Now,
Oh,
being in
Lord.
prison, Riddick can't always
Here's
go on a murder
you.
spree, but he can sometimes. There are occasions where a straight-up fight is the only way forward,
Yeah.
but sometimes there are subtler ways through. What keeps things interesting is how the game mixes the options up.
Really?
Sure, at baseline you can be Murder Man or go through something sneaky beaky, but it's the context around that. Like when you're making your way out of max security, you could gun down everyone in sight. It'll be a hard fight, but it is a
You
valid
can
option.
do it.
You could stick to the shadows and sneak your way through, or find a disguise.
Oh.
Doing this opens up a lot of little guard interactions.
You seen him?
Nah, I just heard what he looks like. Kind of like that guy.
Right. Okay.
You can buy weapons and armor to store at your way to hunt down Exhibit. Then you could scope out a few possible ways to get into his apartment. And on the way,
my
you
God.
could cut the power in areas and take down a few more guards. The level design isn't as open or interconnected as a proper immersive sim, but there are absolutely sections in that spirit that give you the choice in how to proceed.
That's
you can
nice.
skip out on a lot, like when you get to double max. This is an area where you're trying to get in trouble, but in the right way. You could be caught with G-Smack, which the prisoners make by catching moths. There's something hallucinogenic in them that gets you nice and high. Or you can win some fights in the arena, which the guards and prisoners participate in. Once you're in the
Of course
circle,
they do.
there are no rules except you can't leave the circle, which means you could smuggle some weapons in. There's an entire little world of side quests you can do down here, like finding out who's snitching to the guards, killing rival gang members, poisoning someone to speed up a ransom process. Or you could ignore all of that and take your luck on craps. But you would not believe how bad the losing streaks can be here.
Wow.
Yeah.
You lose, man.
It's all mainly optional, but worth engaging in. Sure, a weapon helps in the arena, but buying a vent tool lets you crawl around where you couldn't otherwise. Not to mention the side quests can be pretty ruthless. Like, you could be told to kill all members of a gang, but they might not be hostile to you. I mean, they are in Butcher Bay. They probably did something fucked up, right?
Probably.
Oh, the Earthrockers are here, too. One little detail I like in these sections is that every NPC, guard or prisoner, has a name. They don't go, oh, these are the prisoners you're supposed to sympathize with, and these are the faceless guards. It gives humanity to both of them, but also
Interesting.
kind of reinforces they're both the same kind of scum in different situations. They may be on different levels of the
I'll
totem
be
pole,
right
but
back. I
something
need
went wrong in
food.
your life to end
Alright,
up
see
here.
ya.
Whether you're
Fuck yeah.
employed or an inmate, you're still in the prison.
Butchers is really falling apart.
Which
No
is
one
weird.
cares. Not Hoxie or the Cards. Everyone's either addicts or gun crazy. Or dead.
Voice actors are reused
Damn.
a lot, which does make that part trickier to get into. In Scholars' terms, this game is for John DiMaggio, what Quake 4 is for Steve Bloom.
Oh, there's a lot of
cow! Think you survived the fall?
But when you forget all that and gun everything
of John
down, it's still
DiMaggio in
fun.
here.
They keep the HUD minimal the whole time as well. Your health will only display
kinda
if you're
like
wounded,
Skyrim
and
in
most
a
guns
sense,
have
'cause
ammo
they
counters right on them.
reuse
It only
voice
displays
actors
your
a
backup
lot.
mags when you reload or when
Yeah.
you find more ammo. Firearms are fun, with good sound effects and great visual feedback on the enemies. Though, in another strange reminder of id Tech 3 and Doom 3,
I'm actually
the
surprised
shotgun might as well
Fallout
be a melee
didn't
weapon.
exactly
The range and
go
spread
through that
is that
scenario
bad.
like
Oh, it
Skyrim
does.
did.
It does somewhat. It depends on which one you're playing
It does only somewhat, but it's not to the same extreme as Skyrim.
now. Oh, that's what you mean.
Like even in
It almost
Fallout
feels
4,
like it was designed entirely around a single level below the prison. That's where you fight the swarms of mutants who either got irradiated through some kind of mining runoff, or maybe they couldn't handle the grits and black bean specials anymore. Anyways, when you can go loud,
sometimes
it
that's
does
what
seem more
happens when
fun
you
to
got
play more
so little
slowly and
voice
sneaky.
actors,
Beyond
but
the
a big
gameplay
world
advantage
to
stuff you
cover.
find, the collectibles
Oh.
are worth seeking out. There's lots of bonus content to unlock about the game in the setting in the main menu. Though I don't
Ooh.
recommend reading a novelization through The Cube.
The
but hey,
Cube.
they have a
That looked
G4
weird.
documentary. That's
Yeah.
another blast from the past.
G4 documentary.
Whoa! Hey!
Yeah, what the hell?
That's actually kind of funny.
I try to kick as much ass as I can with what little I have.
But maybe you don't care about this stupid setting. It's still worth it for the cigarette pack covers. These things are ahead of their time. I went looking for them more to see where the
Yes,
line was
they
drawn.
are.
I've never gotten all of them since some are like Halo skulls, but they're weird enough to be a good
Good
collectible.
lord.
There's always something to find.
Like, there's Eve Tech 3. Yeah.
That's one of the goblins from Starbreeze's other game, Enclave,
I
which you
bet
saw
you it's
bits of in
basically impossible.
Oh.
I'll never
to
escape it.
100%
One of the
complete
great
this
things
game.
about Enclave is that it just had a really great visual look to it.
I know a studio who agreed to that. Oh, it's you. Right, getting back on
It's you.
track. All the pieces are here for an amazing game, and it is great, but the biggest issue is the polish. Sometimes the game will bug out and you can't pick up an item or gun properly. There are plenty of visual bugs, like models snapping into the wrong animation or whatever the fuck is happening there.
Oh, the...
But beyond all the visual glitches,
Oh, that
the
happened.
AI is a big one.
Yeah.
Like on the stealth side, how they detect you isn't very consistent. Sometimes they sniff you out from across the room, or if you're in the disguise section, suddenly they realize you're the guy they're looking for. It is one of those games where the stealth bullshit goes both ways. I could horribly mess up a drop takedown, but he doesn't notice me and I still get him. Or they can find a body you left and start shooting where you're at 5 seconds later. Even in combat, there were times an enemy forgot I existed and just wandered off into the hallways.
What
or
the
just
hell?
stopped fighting me and stood there for some reason. When the systems work, they work, but this still happens often enough to be distracting. There are some things you could argue are happening in setting, like a guard realizing who you are suddenly, but most of the time, it's just overtly broken. This is another area Dark Athena kind of improved on, but also has its own different set of problems.
Wonderful.
All the pieces are here, but it feels like some needed more time in the oven. All that said, I think that just leaves the story, and as I said before, the tale of Dickie Rick's escape is extremely straightforward. Even without any movie knowledge, it's still a satisfying arc. But I do want to go into some of that, so if you don't want spoilers, go to here.
I think we're fine without spoilers. I don't think anyone's going to try to play this with how much trouble it seems.
Yeah.
Fine with
In Riddick's
spoilers.
attempt to escape max security, he falls down into the Gimp sewers and has to blast his way out.
So
While
what?
down there, he meets Pope Joe, a character who was apparently cut from the movie. Since Riddick was wounded in the fall, Joe will only heal him up if he brings him his voice box, which ends up being like a cross between a CIA numbers station and country radio. It says a lot of bizarre things, but mainly foreshadows necromongers.
The Lord says these are ministries, planetary ministries, system-wide ministries.
What the hell?
As Joe fixes his arm, a voice tells Riddick he's been blind for too long, and he gets his eye shine. Why the scene plays out this way is weird to me for a few reasons. For one, the game is pretty pitch black, but this is foreshadowing for Chronicles, which is fine planting even if it doesn't pay off here, but it's not the only instance of it. The second is that Riddick blames Pope Joe for doing something to his eyes. Like, they're trying to have ambiguity to it, but it's clear that it just sort of happened.
Yeah.
It feels like it would make more sense if Riddick was knocked out while he was doing this, and Joe could vaguely allude to how else he'll help him. It would make it way easier for him to write off the visions and voices as a medical fever dream.
Yeah,
Besides, it's
that would
important
make
to
more
learn
sense
that the
there.
voices are not on your side. And
It's
truth
called
be
Star
told,
Breeze
I've always
Engine.
hated the threat being it's a fury and power he has. It's been scrapped forever, but Pitch Black had a prequel comic called Slam City, and you see him straight up trade for the eye shine. The big difference is choice. In one, he throws a large part of his humanity away so he can thrive as some kind of abyss killer. His natural, most comfortable space will be in darkness.
Yeah.
Instead, this would be like if I went in for a prostate exam and then entered the Avatar state. He shot Gimps in a sewer and found his radio. Unless the words about necromongers triggered his fury and ancestry or something. It's a really interesting part of his character.
Activates
that was overwritten
the
to make him
Avatar
a chosen
state
one.
somehow.
And
I
him
don't
not
know.
remembering or being in denial about it doesn't add much.
What?
There's a similar bit later when Exhibit catches you in Double Max. And I don't know what to call this. The Diesel Blast? No, that doesn't sound good.
What is going on? What? What the fuck? What just happened there?
And then you club each other
Exploded.
to death. In
Yeah.
the context of a video game, it feels like you've unlocked a new power or ability, just like you did with the Eye Shine. Instead,
Yeah.
this is never followed up on, and not in the movie either, unless you see the director's cut.
Oh,
There you see him do the
just
exact
fucking
same
spirit
thing,
bomb like
unleashing
Goku.
fury and energy, and then it's never brought up again. In general, there's a lot
Oh.
more scenes of Furians being an overtly magical race, and I prefer Riddick being scary due to his experience. He never needed space magic with bioraptors.
Yeah.
Did not know who was fucking with.
Plus, he really seems at his best playing off of other characters, and especially a group. That's why this being a game works so well. There are people to play off of, and you get to play as Shivman in his natural habitat.
Makes
Still,
sense.
it is wild a game went this far to explain a retcon. At least back then.
Oh.
Anyhow,
What game was
part of
that?
what's great about Pitch Black is how much it reveals about everybody. Who is Riddick, or Fry, or Johns, or Imam when they're really being tested? The lights go out, but a lot more is revealed. Cool stuff. Butcher Bay.
Oh, that was
insight
5?
into Riddick and
Oh, that was 5. Ah, yeah.
John's relationship. John foils one of his escape attempts, Riddick thanks him with a shank, and it kind of goes along with the prisoner and guard dynamic where they're not really that different, at least at this point. On top of that, Johns wants his bounty, Riddick wants out, but this still might be the closest thing to a friend Riddick might have had. It's a tense one if it is.
You dying on me, Johns?
No, not yet. They get you good.
I've had worse.
I thought this was going to be the day, Riddick. The day one of us kills the other.
The day is not over yet.
It also seems like he might not be tweaking on morphine yet. Eventually, John betrays Hoxie, saying he'll take Riddick to another slam, but it still seems kind of tongue-in-cheek. Like they've been playing this cat-and-mouse game a while, or it's a borderline scam. John knows
probably
he can get out and he'll get a higher bounty each time. There's mutual respect here. By the time of Pitch Black, that's mainly evaporated. The reason for this is in a DVD extra for Pitch Black.
Really?
I would have never guessed he had such a soft spot in his little heart. Children in peril.
I don't know if they ever said what exactly he did, but he later cooked up another plan to feed a child to monsters, and that was the final straw. It's interesting to see glimpses of how things were before they got really bad, but Hoxie remains a mystery. You're not told much directly about him, but you still get a good sense of what he's about. Like, him being the prison warden makes him an automatic enemy, but when you see his wood floor penthouse on the top of the prison, that says everything. There are several points he could have easily wasted Riddick, but his pride won't let him because he's too used to being God in this little world. He's not just an inmate, he's a zoo animal, a trophy.
Nobody steals my property from my house, Johns.
He can lose guards all day, they're replaceable, it's the prestige of his facility. Though most of it has been actively crumbling under him,
he doesn't
look
care
at it that closely to care. This edgelord in welding goggles isn't a real threat, he's annoying and a bit amusing. That only changes after Riddick sets off a bomb and lets swarms of aliens in. They do get contained, but at a massive cost to the mining operation. It's only at this point that Hoxie sends Riddick to the fabled Triple Max, and Johns is being blamed for bringing him here at all. He's done enough damage that this does feel like sabotage. At this point, you've already seen how dark, dirty, and awful things can get, so how foul is Triple Max?
Well, let's see.
Your mandatory 2 minutes of daily exercise begins now. This is your right as a guild prisoner, and your only right. A proposition to abolish law number 88432-337B is currently pending.
It's cryosleep, but you're woken up 2 minutes a day to do exercise.
Wow.
Even that right is being challenged. This doesn't seem too bad at first until it sinks in. Your entire life is waking up, stumbling around for about a minute, and then collapsing back down until you die. It's 2 minutes of the same thing forever without real sleep, it just feels like the moment passes immediately. They'll play bird sounds and sometimes dump another prisoner in there, but this is life now. It's a torture nexus they painted white and added some on-paper niceties too. It sucks. Triple Max is no good. You do find a fairly obvious flaw to get out of it, and maybe other prisoners did too, but that doesn't mean you're out yet. Of course,
it's the white
cryo
room,
coffin
pretty
pyramids.
much. The cryo coffin pyramids
and robots. This entire section has bizarre, completely new enemies.
Attention. Unscheduled presence reported.
Unscheduled presence reported. Oh!
At this point, you've gotten used to grime and prison drabness. Now you're in a bright, strangely colored, high-tech lab. Everything is pristine and sterile. Riddick's completely out of his element, and as the player, you are too. There are barely any dark corners to hide in, most of your enemies aren't humans anymore, and everything being bathed in artificial light is the exact opposite of where Riddick should be.
Yeah. So it's Resident Evil game, got it. Well, it's Resident Evil 6.
From before, and you can stick it to Hoxie directly. You get to hijack a security mech and completely rip the upper levels of Butcher Bay apart. And all the while, it just spews out first-time user tips and advertisements for the company's other products.
Why 6? Because there's actually a specific part in the game where it's just all white. You're in a facility at the whole time. Well, not the whole time in the game, but for a good portion of the game. There's a part of the game. Oh, you're thinking of that lab, but yeah. I was talking about the one certain part thing. Conserve ammunition by walking on top of enemies.
One of his cryo trophies got loose. Weirdly, there's a similar villain in Riddick Dark Fury, except instead of cryo, her prisoners are in a different kind of suspended animation.
Oh.
They experience time extremely
Oh, there's
slowly,
a
another
animated
kind of nightmare.
series for this.
That one's
Yeah.
neat, but there's a lot of off-model scenes, like they did Keith David dirty in some shots. And then it culminates in the Battle of Off-Model.
The
Like
Battle of
game,
Off-Model.
The anime was also made to promote Chronicles, and also
Look at
features
this.
cast from the previous
They're
movie.
moving really
This was
weirdly.
A huge push back then. Moving on, the
They
final battle
are.
isn't against Hawks directly, but as security droids. They have a nice parallel, but only in the PC version. There's a section where you fight two robots called flamingos, and they're machines using absolutely the bare minimum. They're gangly, awkward limbs barely managing the massive guns on top of them. The ones here are obviously more advanced, but they also look like works of art. But even though they have better guns and can cloak, they're just as ineffective. Using them at all directly leads to Hoxie getting ripped out of his hiding spot. When it's just him alone, he's got no leverage.
Yep.
Can you walk, Johns?
Yeah, I think so.
How's your eyesight?
Oh.
Riddick's the one wearing the goggles. Kill him on sight.
Oh, I see.
That's him.
Yep.
Damn.
Gunned down by his own guards.
Butcher Bay escaped, more teasing about Riddick's destiny, but beyond the movie, maybe there will be a game where he fights necromongers. That makes perfect sense, right?
Does it?
Well, after the movie, the next game is another prequel. Still, outside Lord of the Rings and a few others, this is one of the best movie licensed games. It does have some issues, but at the time of this video, the biggest one is getting it and getting it running. However, GOG recently launched the Dream List, where players can vote.
Oh
on what
yeah,
titles
they're
they
doing
prioritize
this.
for
I heard
scoring,
about
and
this.
so I'll link that in the pinned comment. From what
They're
I
voting
understand,
for a
this
lot
part
of different
originally
games
due to
on
some
there.
licenses expiring, but it does need some fixes as well. That about does it for this round. But
That's over
come
on
back
GOG.
soon for part 2. The Vin Diesel adventures aren't over yet.
The Vin Diesel adventures. Vin Diesel goes on a lot of adventures, apparently.
It's a sudden stop at the bottom.
It's not the fall that kills you, the sudden stop at the bottom.
I mean,
In RPGs,
he's not
what class do
technically wrong.
I lean towards? If you mean tabletop, I'll play all kinds of classes, but
But-
I usually steer away from magic, which I think is
I mean, it
leftover
depends on
just
the height
trauma
of
from
fall,
D&D
too.
3.5. It depends on the system, but for video games,
I never
will
quite
play magic
understood
classes
that
if the magic is fun and
term of
interesting,
phrase.
like Arcanum or Tyranny. Otherwise, I'm making default human fighter, and I always will. Will I cover the new Factorio DLC? I'm already behind schedule,
Factorio.
man. Like, not yet. Will there be a video on the Callisto Protocols DLC ending? I have played through that, and it would be a shorter turnaround, so maybe if people are interested. I'm not sure if people
They're always
still are.
interested in you,
Have I ever
Mandela,
played a game that
whatever you
reflected
say.
my entire personality? I don't think so, but the most recent one where everything clicked was Northern Journey. That's
Oh.
one I wish I could play for the first time again. Now that I have an industry job, any thoughts on the current state? Funny enough, nothing new really, just different insights into it. There's still talented people trying to make great things, but the landscape is kind of a nightmare. Hopefully, things will look up. But beyond
Hopefully.
that, I guess I can have horse news sometimes. We put out Heart of the Machine last week, which is a 4X RPG from the creator of AI War Fleet
Heart of the Machine.
Command. Truth be told, I've worked on this game and can't describe it concisely. So that's how things are going there.
Thank you for the bits. 20 bits, Cars. Thank you. I wasn't expecting that.
Oh.
Yes, I have that sound playing every time I get some bits. It's the, who are you people? Because I usually never get bits over here. For those that don't know.
Who are you people?
But yeah, Heart of the Machine. I'm going to look that up real quick. Give me 1 second. Let's see if it's on Steam. Heart of the Machine. Yep, it's right here. Seems to be a 4X builder with mech. Oh, Cars, we can't do it around. Thank you all so much. If you like, comment, subscribe. God damn it.